The perfect betrayal. The night that changed everything. I stood frozen in the doorway of the church basement, my hand still gripping the handle of my overnight bag. The wedding rehearsal was supposed to start in 20 minutes. I had arrived early to drop off my emergency kit, bobby pins, safety pins, tissues, all the things a bride needs on her big day. But what I saw made me drop that bag right onto the cold tile floor. My fiancé David was pressed against the wall near the storage room. His hands were tangled in someone's blonde hair. Someone who was wearing the exact same bridesmaid dress I had picked out 3 months ago. Someone who was kissing him like her life depended on it. My sister Rebecca. The moment time stopped. The sound of my bag hitting the floor echoed through the empty basement. They jumped apart like two teenagers caught by their parents. David's face went white. Rebecca's lipstick was smeared across her mouth, and she had the nerve to look annoyed that I had interrupted them. "Emma," David said, and his voice cracked. "This isn't what it looks like." I laughed. Actually laughed. It was either that or scream, and I was saving my screaming for later. "Really? Because it looks like my fiancé is making out with my sister 24 hours before our wedding." Rebecca rolled her eyes. She actually rolled her eyes. "Oh, please, Emma. Don't be so dramatic. We were just talking." "Talking," I repeated slowly. "With your tongues. In each other's mouths." The truth starts to surface. David took a step toward me, and I took 2 steps back. "Emma, please. Let me explain. This has been eating me up inside. I didn't know how to tell you." "Tell me what?" My voice sounded strange in my own ears. Too calm. Too quiet. That I have feelings for Rebecca. That I've had feelings for her for a while now. The words hung in the air between us like poison gas. I felt like someone had reached into my chest and squeezed my heart until it stopped beating. "How long?" I whispered. Rebecca answered before David could. "Since Christmas. Remember when David came to help me move into my new apartment? We spent the whole day together. We just connected. The sacrifice I made. Christmas. That was 10 months ago. 10 months of lies. 10 months of planning a wedding with a man who was in love with my sister. 10 months of me working double shifts at the hospital to save money for our future while he was texting her behind my back." I looked at David, really looked at him. This was the man I had supported through 4 years of medical school. The man I had worked 2 jobs for, sometimes 3, so he could focus on his studies without worrying about money. I had given up my scholarship to art school. I had postponed my dreams. I had believed him when he said, "Once I'm a doctor, I'll take care of you. You can paint all day, whatever you want. I gave up everything for you," I said, and my voice was shaking now. "I worked myself to exhaustion. I sold my car to help pay for your medical boards. I moved to this boring town because you got a residency here. And this whole time, you were sleeping with my sister?" "We weren't sleeping together," Rebecca protested. "We just kissed a few times. It's not a big deal." The gaslighting begins. "A few times." I turned to her. "You're my maid of honor. You helped me pick out my dress. You threw me a bridal shower. And the whole time, you were stealing my fiancé." Rebecca crossed her arms. "I didn't steal anything. If David really loved you, he wouldn't have feelings for me. Maybe you should look at why your relationship wasn't strong enough to keep him interested." The cruelty of her words hit me like a slap. This was my baby sister. The girl I had protected from bullies in elementary school. The teenager I had lent money to when she was broke in college. The woman I had chosen to stand beside me on the most important day of my life. David tried a different approach. "Emma, you're upset. You're not thinking clearly. Why don't we all take a breath and talk about this rationally tomorrow? After the wedding." I stared at him. "After the wedding? You think I'm going to marry you after this?" "Emma, be reasonable," he said, and his voice had that patronizing tone he used when he thought I was being emotional. "We've spent $30,000 on this wedding. Your parents took out a loan. 200 people are flying in. You're going to throw all of that away because you misunderstood what you saw?" The manipulation. Misunderstood. My voice was getting louder now. "I saw you kissing my sister." "You saw us hugging," David corrected. Rebecca was upset about her breakup with Jake. I was comforting her. "That's what families do." Rebecca nodded quickly. "Yes, exactly. Jake just broke up with me this morning." I was crying. David was being nice. "You're twisting everything because you're stressed about the wedding." I looked between them. These 2 people I loved more than anyone in the world. They were standing together now, a united front against me. And I realized something terrible. They had practiced this. They had planned what to say if I caught them. This wasn't the first time. This wasn't a mistake or a moment of weakness. This was a relationship, and I was the obstacle in their way. The family betrayal. I'm calling off the wedding, I said, and the words felt like broken glass coming out of my mouth. David's face changed. The fake concern disappeared, replaced by cold anger. You're being ridiculous. You're going to embarrass both of us. What will people think? I don't care what people think. Well, you should, Rebecca said. Mom and Dad will be devastated. They'll lose all that money. And everyone will talk about how you couldn't keep your man. How you ran away like a coward instead of working through your problems. The door at the top of the stairs opened, and my mother's voice called down. Emma? David? Are you down there? People are starting to arrive for rehearsal. I looked at David one last time. The man I had planned to spend my life with. The man I had sacrificed everything for. Tell everyone the wedding is off. Tell them whatever you want. But I'm done. I grabbed my bag and walked toward the stairs. Rebecca caught my arm. Emma, don't do this. Think about Mom and Dad. Think about how humiliated they'll be. I pulled my arm away. I am thinking about myself for once. Something I should have done a long time ago. The confrontation upstairs. When I reached the top of the stairs, the church sanctuary was filling up with family and members of the wedding party. My mother was arranging flowers at the altar. My father was talking to the priest. David's parents were laughing with some of our friends. Everyone looked so happy, so excited for tomorrow. I walked straight to my mother. Mom, I need to talk to you. She smiled without looking up from the flowers. Can it wait, honey? We're running a bit behind schedule, and Father Mike has another event at 7. The wedding is off. The flowers slipped from her hands. She turned to face me, her eyes wide. What? I just caught David kissing Rebecca in the basement. I'm calling off the wedding. My mother's face went through several emotions in rapid succession. Shock, disbelief, and then something I didn't expect. Anger. Emma Louise, this is not the time for your drama. I blinked. My drama. Parents take sides. My father had walked over now, along with several other people who had heard my raised voice. David and Rebecca were coming up the stairs behind me, looking upset and worried. Mom, Emma walked in on something she misunderstood, Rebecca said quickly. She's blowing everything out of proportion. I saw them kissing. I shouted, and my voice echoed in the church. Everyone was staring now. David put on his most sincere face, the one he used with difficult patience. Emma, sweetheart, you're having a panic attack. You've been so stressed about the wedding. Why don't we get you some water, and you can sit down? I know what I saw. My father put his hand on my shoulder. Emma, calm down. You're making a scene. Let's talk about this privately. But I was done being quiet. Done being reasonable. I have been supporting David for 6 years. I gave up art school. I worked myself sick. I paid for his education. And he's been having an affair with my sister. For 10 months. David shook his head sadly. She's been struggling lately. The stress of the wedding, the long hours at work. I think she needs to see someone. A therapist maybe. The moment of clarity. I looked around at all these people. My family. My friends. David's family. And I realized that no matter what I said, no matter what evidence I provided, they had already decided. I was the crazy bride. The hysterical woman who couldn't handle wedding stress. David was the successful doctor, the catch, the prize. Rebecca was the beautiful younger sister who could do no wrong. And I was tired. So tired of fighting. So tired of trying to prove myself. So tired of being the responsible one, the boring one, the one who always did the right thing while everyone else got to be selfish and happy. You're right, I said quietly. I need to leave. My mother grabbed my hand. Emma, don't be silly. Let's just get through tomorrow, and then you and David can go on your honeymoon and work things out. I pulled my hand away. I'm not marrying him, Mom. And if you can't support that decision, then I don't need you in my life either. Her face hardened. If you walk out of this church, don't expect us to be here when you come back. You're throwing away a good man, embarrassing this family, and wasting everyone's time and money. This is selfish, Emma. This is cruel. The final decision. I looked at my father, hoping for something different from him. But he just shook his head. Your mother's right. You're making a mistake you'll regret. I turned to David one last time. His arm was around Rebecca now, comforting her because she was crying. My sister was crying because I had caught her kissing my fiancé. I hope you're happy together, I said. And I meant it in the worst way possible. I walked down the aisle of that church, past all the shocked faces and whispered conversations. I walked out into the parking lot where my car was waiting. I threw my overnight bag in the back seat, got behind the wheel, and drove away from my wedding, my family, and my entire life. I had $300 in my checking account, a car that needed new brakes, and a broken heart. But I had something else too. Something I hadn't felt in 6 years. Freedom. The road ahead. I drove for hours, not really sure where I was going. Away from this town. Away from David and Rebecca. Away from parents who had chosen my sister over me without even questioning her story. Around midnight, I pulled into a rest stop somewhere on Interstate 95. I sat in my car, staring at my engagement ring under the fluorescent lights. It was a modest ring. I had told David I didn't need anything fancy. I had been saving for a house, for our future, for children. What a fool I had been. I took off the ring and threw it out the window into the darkness. Then I put my head on the steering wheel and cried. Not gentle tears, but huge, gulping sobs that shook my whole body. I cried for the 6 years I had wasted. I cried for the dreams I had given up. I cried for the family that had betrayed me. But somewhere around 2 in the morning, when I had no tears left, I realized something. I was 28 years old. I had a nursing degree, which meant I could get a job anywhere. I had talent with a paintbrush that I had ignored for too long. And I had finally learned the most important lesson of all. Never make yourself smaller so someone else can feel bigger. Never sacrifice your dreams for someone who wouldn't do the same for you. And never, ever trust someone who makes you doubt what you saw with your own eyes. A new beginning. When the sun came up, I was back on the road. I pulled into a gas station and bought a map, the old-fashioned paper kind. I spread it out on the hood of my car and closed my eyes. Then I pointed randomly at the map. My finger landed on a small coastal town called Seaside Haven. Population 8,000. 300 miles away. Far enough that I could start over. Small enough that I could afford to live there. I bought coffee and a breakfast sandwich, filled up my tank, and headed east toward the ocean. Toward a place where nobody knew me as Emma the doormat. Emma the girl who got left at the altar. Emma the sister who wasn't good enough. I would be just Emma. And for the first time in my life, that felt like enough. Rising from the ashes. Welcome to Seaside Haven. The first thing I noticed about Seaside Haven was the smell. Salt air mixed with fresh paint and coffee. It was completely different from the city I had left behind. The town stretched along a beautiful coastline, with small shops painted in bright colors and houses that looked like they belonged in a storybook. I parked my car on Main Street and just sat there for a moment, taking it all in. Seagulls called overhead. People walked by with shopping bags and smiles. Nobody knew me here. Nobody knew about the wedding that didn't happen. Nobody knew I was a woman whose own family had chosen her sister over her. It was perfect. I had exactly $243 left after buying gas and food for the drive. I needed to find a cheap place to stay and a job. Fast. Finding a home. The first 3 apartments I looked at were way too expensive. One landlord laughed when I asked if he had anything under $800 a month. This is a tourist town, honey. Everything's expensive here. But I refused to give up. On my 4th try, I found a small apartment above a bakery called Sweet Morning. The smell of fresh bread floated up through the floorboards. The apartment had one room that served as bedroom and living room combined, a tiny bathroom, and a kitchen area that was barely big enough to turn around in. The landlady was a woman in her 70s named Mrs. Chun. She had kind eyes and silver hair pulled back in a neat bun. She looked at me carefully when I asked about the rent. $500 a month, she said, plus utilities. First month and security deposit up front. My heart sank. I didn't have $1,000. I can give you $300 now, I said quietly. And I promise I'll get a job this week and pay you the rest by the end of the month. Mrs. Chun studied my face. You running from something, girl? I thought about lying, but something about her reminded me of my grandmother. I'm running towards something, I said instead. A new life? A better one. She smiled. That's a good answer. You can have the apartment. Pay me the rest when you can. But you better get a job fast, because I'm a nice lady, but I'm not a charity. Starting over. I moved in that same day with nothing but my overnight bag and a few boxes from my car. Most of my belongings were still at David's apartment. My clothes, my books, my painting supplies. I had left everything behind. That night, I slept on the floor with my jacket as a pillow. But I didn't care. For the first time in weeks, I slept peacefully. No nightmares about weddings. No stress about seating charts and flower arrangements. Just the sound of waves in the distance and the smell of bread from downstairs. The next morning, I woke up early and started job hunting. I went to every restaurant, every shop, every hotel in town. Most places weren't hiring. The tourist season was ending, and they were cutting staff, not adding more. By late afternoon, I was exhausted and discouraged. I had $2 left. Enough for a cup of coffee, maybe. The cafe job. I walked into a small cafe called Ocean View just as they were about to close. A woman with red hair and tattoos on both arms was wiping down tables. She looked up when the bell over the door rang. "Sorry, honey. We're closing in 5 minutes." "I'm not here for coffee," I said quickly. "I'm looking for a job. Any job. Waitress, dishwasher, anything." She straightened up and looked me over. "You got experience?" "I was a nurse for 6 years. I'm used to long hours and difficult people. I'm responsible and I work hard." She laughed. "A nurse? What's a nurse doing looking for waitress work in Seaside Haven?" "Starting over," I said simply. Something in my voice must have convinced her. "I'm Sarah. I own this place. My waitress just quit yesterday to move back to the city. The job's yours if you want it. $6 an hour plus tips. Breakfast and lunch shift, Tuesday through Saturday. You start tomorrow at 5 a.m. 5 in the morning. Terrible hours. Probably terrible tips in a small-town cafe. But it was a job." "Thank you," I said, and I meant it with every fiber of my being. "Thank you so much." Sarah smiled. "Don't thank me yet. The breakfast rush is crazy, and some of our regulars are grumpy as hell. But if you survive the first week, you might actually like it here." Life as a waitress. The first week was brutal. My feet ached from standing for hours. My arms hurt from carrying heavy trays. I burned myself on coffee pots and spilled orange juice on my only pair of work pants. But Sarah was right. After the first week, I started to get the hang of it. I learned which customers wanted to chat and which ones wanted to be left alone. I learned that Mr. Peterson always ordered scrambled eggs, but secretly wanted them over easy. I learned that the Thursday morning book club left the best tips. I was making about $300 a week with tips, barely enough to cover rent, food, and utilities. But it was mine. Money I had earned with my own hands. Money that didn't depend on David or anyone else. At night, after my shifts, I was too tired to do much. I bought a cheap air mattress and some secondhand furniture from the thrift store. Slowly, the empty apartment started to feel like home. Rediscovering art. One evening, about 3 weeks after arriving in Seaside Haven, I was walking along the beach. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and purple. It was the most beautiful thing I had seen in months. Without thinking, I found myself wishing I had my paints. Wishing I could capture this moment, this feeling of peace and possibility. The next day, I went to the small art supply store on Main Street. I couldn't afford much, but I bought a cheap sketchbook and a set of pencils. That night, I sat on the beach and started drawing. It felt like coming home. I had forgotten how much I loved this. The feeling of creating something from nothing. The way the world disappeared when I was focused on my work. For 6 years, I had put this aside for David's career. I had told myself I would get back to it later. But later never came. Now, I drew every night. The ocean, the boats, the old houses on the hill. Sometimes I drew from memory. David's face. Rebecca's smirk. My mother's disappointed eyes. I drew everything that hurt, trying to get it out of my system and onto paper. Meeting Marcus. It was a Tuesday morning, about 2 months after I arrived in Seaside Haven. The cafe was slow, and I was refilling salt shakers when a man walked in. He was tall, maybe 40, with dark hair going gray at the temples and kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Coffee, please," he said, sitting at the counter. "Black." I poured him a cup and went back to my work. But I noticed he was watching me. Not in a creepy way, but like he was studying me. "You're new in town," he said after a while. "A couple months now. Liking it so far. Better than where I came from." He smiled. "That's what everyone says about Seaside Haven. It's where people come when they need to escape something." I looked at him more carefully. "You sound like you speak from experience." "I came here 15 years ago. Burned-out architect from New York. Thought I'd stay for a summer. Never left." He extended his hand. "Marcus Wellington. I run the art gallery down on Harbor Street." I shook his hand. "Emma. Emma Carter." I had started using my middle name as my last name. A fresh start needed a fresh identity. Emma, he repeated. Nice to meet you. You know, I was walking along the beach yesterday evening, and I saw someone drawing. Woman with dark hair, sitting on the rocks near the lighthouse. Was that you? I felt my cheeks flush. Maybe. Your drawings are extraordinary. I blinked. You looked at my drawings? I did. I hope you don't mind. I'm always on the lookout for new talent. The sketch of the fishing boats at sunset? Incredible use of light and shadow. An unexpected opportunity. I didn't know what to say. Nobody had called my art extraordinary before. David had always said it was a nice hobby. My parents had encouraged me to be practical, to have a real career. Thank you, I managed. Marcus pulled out a business card and slid it across the counter. Wellington Gallery. I'm putting together a show for local artists next month. Small pieces, affordable prices. Good exposure for up-and-coming artists. Would you be interested in showing some work? I stared at the card like it might bite me. I'm not a real artist. I mean, I went to community college for a year before I had to drop out. I don't have formal training. Some of the best artists in history were self-taught. Talent is talent, Emma. And you have it. He stood up, leaving a $10 bill for a $3 cup of coffee. Think about it. If you're interested, come by the gallery. We can talk. After he left, Sarah came over with a knowing smile. Marcus Wellington is the most respected art dealer on this coast. If he's interested in your work, you should listen. I barely have enough money for rent, I protested. I can't afford canvas and good paint. Then start small. Use what you have. Marcus doesn't care about expensive materials. He cares about heart, about authenticity. She paused. And he's a good man, Emma. One of the few who came to this town to escape something and actually dealt with his demons instead of drowning them in alcohol. Creating the Betrayal series. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about Marcus's offer. A real gallery showing. My art in a real gallery. It seemed impossible, but I also couldn't stop thinking about everything that had happened. David, Rebecca, my parents. All of it still hurt like an open wound. So I started painting. Not pretty beach scenes or tourist-friendly landscapes. I painted what I felt. Betrayal. Heartbreak. Survival. I used cheap acrylics from the dollar store and painted on cardboard I got from behind the bakery. I painted a woman with her heart literally torn in two. I painted a bride standing alone at an altar. I painted two faces kissing in the shadows while a third face watched in horror. Each painting was raw and painful and honest. I titled the series Broken Vows. 2 weeks later, I gathered my courage and walked into Wellington Gallery. Marcus was there, talking to a couple about a large abstract painting on the wall. When he saw me, his face lit up. Emma, you came. I had 5 paintings rolled up under my arm. You said you were interested in my work. I don't know if these are what you're looking for, but... He gestured to a table in the back office. Let's see what you've got. I unrolled the paintings one by one, my hands shaking. Marcus didn't say anything for a long moment. He just looked at each piece carefully, his expression serious. These are personal, he said finally. Yes. They're about you. About something you went through. Yes. He looked up at me, and I saw respect in his eyes. They're brilliant, Emma. Raw and painful and absolutely brilliant. This is the kind of art that makes people feel something. This is the kind of art that changes how people see the world. The gallery show. Marcus included all 5 paintings in the local artist showcase. He hung them in the main gallery, right where everyone would see them first. He priced them at $300 each, which seemed insane to me. Who would pay $300 for paintings done on cardboard by a nobody? The show opened on a Friday night in December. I wore the only nice dress I owned, a simple black dress I had bought from the thrift store. I was terrified. What if nobody liked my work? What if people thought I was a joke? But when I walked into the gallery, I saw something I never expected. There was a crowd around my paintings. People were talking about them, pointing, discussing the emotions and the story they told. This artist really understands heartbreak, one woman said. The use of shadow and light is incredible, another person commented. I want to buy this one, a man told Marcus, pointing at my painting of the woman with the torn heart. It reminds me of my divorce. Like someone finally put into art what I felt but couldn't express. By the end of the night, 3 of my 5 paintings had sold. $900. More money than I made in 3 weeks at the cafe. Marcus found me standing in the corner, overwhelmed. Congratulations, Emma. You're officially a working artist. I can't believe this is real, I whispered. Believe it. Your work speaks to people. It's honest and powerful. He paused. I'd like to represent you, if you're interested. Help you build a career. Get your work in front of bigger audiences. Healing and growing. Over the next few months, my life changed in ways I never imagined. I kept my job at the cafe because I liked the routine and the people, but I painted every spare moment I had. Marcus helped me apply for grants and connected me with other artists. My work started getting attention beyond Seaside Haven. A blogger from Portland featured my Broken Vows series on her website. The post went viral. Suddenly, people from all over were emailing Marcus, asking about my work. I was commissioned to create new pieces. I was interviewed by art magazines. And slowly, very slowly, I started to heal. The pain of David's betrayal didn't disappear, but it became something I had transformed into art rather than something that destroyed me. I made friends in Seaside Haven. Sarah and I became close. Mrs. Chun treated me like a granddaughter. I joined a women's group at the community center where we talked about books and life and everything in between. I even started therapy, something I had always dismissed as too expensive or not necessary. But Dr. Linda helped me understand patterns in my life. How I had always made myself small. How I had always put others first. How I had confused love with sacrifice. You can love someone and still keep your dreams, Dr. Linda told me. In fact, real love encourages both people to grow. The news from home. It was a Tuesday in late May, 6 months after I had left, when Sarah handed me her phone with a strange expression. Emma, I think you need to see this. On the screen was a Facebook post from one of David's friends. An engagement photo. David and Rebecca, smiling at the camera. The caption read, "Finally making it official. Can't wait to marry my best friend this October." October. 6 months away. They had waited exactly 1 year after our failed wedding to announce their engagement. I stared at the photo for a long moment. Rebecca was wearing a huge diamond ring, much bigger than the modest one David had given me. They looked happy, genuinely happy, and I waited for the pain to hit, for the anger and betrayal to flood back. But instead, I felt nothing. Maybe a little sadness for the 6 years I had wasted, but no desire to have David back. No jealousy toward Rebecca. I handed the phone back to Sarah. Good for them, I guess. She looked surprised. That's it. No tears. No wanting revenge. I smiled. The best revenge is living well. And I'm finally living. But that night, as I painted in my apartment, I thought about revenge. Not the angry, destructive kind, but the kind that came from success. From proving everyone wrong who had dismissed me. The return. 2 weeks later, Marcus called me with exciting news. Emma, there's an arts festival in your hometown next month. It's a big deal, lots of media coverage. They want to feature emerging artists from the region, and I submitted your portfolio. They want you as one of the featured artists. My hometown, where David and Rebecca and my parents still lived. Where everyone knew me as the jilted bride who ran away. I don't know, Marcus. That place holds a lot of bad memories. I understand. But think about it. This could be huge for your career. And sometimes, the best way to put the past to rest is to face it from a position of strength. I thought about it for 3 days. And then I said yes. Not for revenge. Not to prove anything to David or Rebecca or my parents. For me. Because I was proud of what I had built. Because I wanted to show the town that had dismissed me that Emma Carter, formerly Emma Henderson, was somebody worth knowing. Preparing for the moment. The month before the festival, I painted like never before. I created 10 new pieces specifically for the show. They were still raw and emotional, but there was something new in them too. Hope, strength, survival. I titled the new series, Rising. One painting showed a woman walking away from flames, her back straight and her head high. Another showed broken pieces coming together to form something even more beautiful. A third showed a phoenix made entirely of paint strokes, emerging from ashes. Marcus was thrilled. These are your best work yet, Emma. You're not just showing paint anymore. You're showing transformation. The week before the festival, I got my hair cut and styled. I bought a beautiful emerald green dress that made me feel confident and powerful. I practiced what I would say if I ran into David or Rebecca or my parents. But most importantly, I reminded myself of who I had become. Not the doormat who sacrificed everything for a man who didn't appreciate her. Not the sister who wasn't good enough. Not the daughter who always did what she was told. I was Emma Carter. Artist. Survivor. Woman who had taken the worst moment of her life and turned it into something beautiful. And I was ready to go home. Sweet revenge and true love. The triumphant return. The drive back to my hometown felt surreal. Marcus insisted on coming with me, driving his nice SUV loaded with my paintings carefully wrapped and protected. He said it was to help with the setup, but I knew he was worried about me facing my past alone. You don't have to do this, he said as we passed the welcome sign for Riverside Heights. We can turn around right now. There are other festivals, other opportunities. No, I said, watching familiar streets pass by the window. I need to do this. For me, the arts festival was being held in the town square, the same place where they held the farmers market every Saturday. The same place where David and I used to walk hand in hand, planning our future. That felt like a lifetime ago now. When we arrived, the festival was already buzzing with activity. Dozens of white tents lined the square, each one housing a different artist. There were painters, sculptors, photographers, jewelry makers. The smell of kettle corn and coffee filled the air. Families walked around with shopping bags, admiring the art. And there, in the center of it all, was my booth. The festival organizers had given me prime placement because I was the featured emerging artist. My name was on a huge banner. Emma Carter, featured artist. Emma Carter, not Emma Henderson. The girl who ran away had a different name now, a different life. Setting up the exhibition, Marcus helped me hang my paintings on the display walls inside the tent. The Broken Vows series on one side, the Rising series on the other. In the center, I placed my newest piece, the one I had finished just last week. It was a self-portrait of sorts, a woman standing at a crossroads. Behind her was darkness and flames. In front of her were multiple paths, each one glowing with different colored light. She was taking her first step forward, away from the fire, toward the light. I had titled it, Choosing Myself. This is incredible, Emma, Marcus said, standing back to look at the full display. Your journey is going to touch so many people. I hope so, I said quietly. But inside, my heart was pounding. What if people from my old life saw these paintings and recognized the story? What if David and Rebecca showed up? What if my parents came? The festival opens. The festival officially opened at 10 in the morning. Within minutes, my tent was flooded with visitors. People stopped to look at my work, to read the descriptions, to ask questions about my process and inspiration. This painting, one woman said, pointing to the bride standing alone at the altar. It makes me feel everything. The loneliness, the betrayal, but also the strength it takes to walk away. Thank you, I said, and I meant it. Every person who connected with my work made the pain I had survived feel worth it. By noon, I had sold 4 paintings. The money was good, but that wasn't what mattered most. What mattered was that people saw value in my art, in my story, in me. Marcus stayed close, helping with transactions and talking to potential buyers. But I noticed he kept looking at me with something in his eyes. Something I was afraid to name because I didn't know if I was ready for it. The first encounter. I was talking to a couple about commissioning a custom piece when I heard a familiar voice behind me. Emma? Emma Henderson. I turned around slowly. Standing there was Melissa Grant, one of my former co-workers from the hospital. Her mouth was hanging open in shock. Oh my God, it is you. What are you doing here? Everyone said you left town after the wedding fell through. I forced a smile. I did leave. I'm living in Seaside Haven now. I'm an artist. Melissa looked around at my paintings, her eyes getting wider. You did all of these? Emma, these are amazing. I had no idea you were so talented. Thank you. Wait until I tell everyone at the hospital. They're going to be so surprised. We all felt so bad for you when David and Rebecca got together. It was such a scandal. My stomach clenched. Rebecca and David are together? Officially. Melissa nodded, not noticing my discomfort. They got engaged last month. The wedding is in October. Your mom is helping plan it, actually. It's going to be at the country club, really fancy. My mom was helping plan my sister's wedding to my ex-fiancé. The betrayal hit me all over again, fresh and sharp. Marcus must have sensed my distress because he suddenly appeared at my side. Emma, sorry to interrupt, but there's a reporter from the Riverside Journal who wants to interview you about your work. I grabbed onto the excuse gratefully. I'm sorry, Melissa. I have to go. It was nice seeing you. As we walked away, Marcus kept his hand on my lower back, steady and reassuring. You okay? No, I admitted. But I will be.